So I just finished The Psychology of Money, which is a great book. Just finished it this morning, and it's not like a how-to guide for personal finance or anything like that. It's more like explaining the rationale of why people do the things they do with their money, and it's really important stuff when it comes to personal finance. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the 5 most important things that I learned from The Psychology of Money. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna talk about is that no one is crazy. So everyone does different things with their money, and sometimes we look at people and we say, like, he makes so much money, why doesn't he spend any of it? Or they make this much money, but they're spending way more and they have all this debt. Like, why are they doing that? Like, we don't understand other people's financial decisions. And that makes sense because everyone views money differently. People grew up and their whole life shaped their financial education and their relationship with money. You know, how they saw their parents act, how they saw people around them act, that shaped the way that they viewed money, and it, manifests itself in their own actions. So when you see someone else spending money in ways that you wouldn't, your first reaction shouldn't be to criticize them and think they're crazy. Just remember, their whole life experience led up to that action. That's what their relationship to money is. So people's entire lives create their relationship with money, and even when people have similar life experiences, their relationship can be very different. Like, I know people who, grew up maybe not having a lot, not being able to buy the things that they wanted, and they grow up and they kind of have that same mentality. Even though they're making decent money, they're like, I should be safe, I should save this money, I shouldn't just go spend it willy-nilly. But then there's other people who, same sort of situation, but they come to the conclusion of, I didn't have this stuff as a kid, so I'm gonna ball out, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna spend it on whatever I want now. So even when people do have similar life experiences, the result could be very different. And we just have to remember that no one's crazy, we're all just different. We all just have different relationships with money. Okay, the second point is about the role risk and luck play in people's lives. This is something that doesn't really get talked about because it's a little taboo to, point out someone's success could be ultimately down to a lot of luck, but it's true. A lot of things that happen to successful people happen because they got lucky. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work to put themselves in the right position, but you have to have some breaks go your way, at least for a lot of people. Another reason it's not really talked about is because it's kind of hard to quantify, how much of this is actually down to hard work and how much is down to luck. So that's another reason you can't really quantify it, but I think we all need to, if we really look at it, we have to admit that luck plays a big part in a lot of people's success, and bad luck plays a part in some people's failures as well. In the book, the author gives the example of, I can't remember if it's Rockefeller, Carnegie, one of those famous rich people from back in the day, but basically they took a lot of risks. They broke a lot of laws to make their money. So those are big risks. The government could have cracked down on that and shut them down, and then they would have ultimately just been a criminal / failure. But they got lucky, they didn't get cracked down on, and now they go down as one of the most famous and wealthy business people of all time. But it could have completely gone the other way, and we could be looking back on this guy and thinking, oh, what a bad criminal person, or we wouldn't even know who he is. So I think that's a perfect example of how luck and risk play a big role in people's success. Because in a lot of cases, people will make the right decisions and do the thing that puts the odds in their favor, but you can never guarantee success. You can still have bad luck and things could go the other way and you could be a failure. Whereas other people could, take a chance on something where odds are really against them and it's probably a big risk and a bad idea, but somehow they get a lucky break, it goes their way, and then their success. So it plays a big role, and we can't necessarily just look at successes and failures and see it black and white and, the successes did the right thing, the failures did the wrong thing, because that's really not true. Sometimes the successes made choices they probably shouldn't have and they got away with, and the failures made choices that they should have and they just got unlucky. I think another good example is crypto. Some people have been into crypto for years. They've studied it, they've known about it, they've been on it for years, and they've lost money. It happens in crypto. It's a very volatile industry. People have lost money. People who are very well educated, made the right choices, they can still lose money. Meanwhile, there are some people who just found out about it a few years ago, and they made probably a dumb decision and put a ton of their money into crypto, and it worked out for them. They got lucky, but now they're seen as successful and intelligent investors when really they're probably pretty stupid, but they just got lucky. So I think it's really important to view that distinction, even though it is taboo and sometimes hard to quantify. Okay, so next up, I'm going to talk about something that really is vital to humans for evolutionary purposes, but in today's day and age, it just hurts us, especially when it comes to money, and that's social comparison. Obviously, like for like evolutionary reasons, you know, you want to compare to other people because it makes you work harder. You know, you want to strive for more. But in today's day and age, when we have access to, you know, safety and resources and things like that, we don't really have to struggle to get the necessities. It really just causes a lot of harm because people compare houses, cars, clothes, things like that, and it all comes back to money. And the thing about social comparison is it never ends. In the book, the author gives the example of a rookie baseball player making like $500,000 a year. To most of us, we're like, oof, that is amazing. That's awesome. I would love that. And he probably thinks that at first too, but then he gets on the team and realizes he's playing with Mike Trout, who's making $35 million a year. And you're like, geez, well, my $500,000 is not so great anymore, is it? But Mike Trout isn't comparing himself to the rookie. Mike Trout is comparing himself to like hedge fund managers who are making over $100,000 a year, or $100 million a year. But those hedge fund managers are comparing themselves to the top hedge fund managers who are making like $500 million a year, and they're comparing themselves to Warren Buffett, who's comparing himself to Jeff Bezos, and you just go on and on and on and on. It's a never-ending game, and that's why the best bet is to just opt out of it. If you can, you know, just focus on not comparing yourself to other people and just being happy with what you have, which, like I said, it takes focused effort because it's part of us. Like, it's evolutionary. It's part of being a human. You compare yourself to other people. But if you can be conscious of it and opt out of it, it'll probably lead you to more happiness and less stress, and honestly just being more grateful for what you have, because a lot of us have so many things to be grateful for, but because we're comparing ourselves to people who have more than us, we feel bad, we feel angsty, we feel all those negative emotions because we want more, when in reality we usually have enough. We just need to be happy with it. All right, so this next point is extremely reassuring, to me at least, and that's that you can lose 99% of the time, but still end up a winner with your 1% wins. And that's just because if your 1% of wins completely outweighs all the losses, then who cares about all the losses? You still end up with a net gain. And this is actually what like the entire venture capital industry is built on. They invest in tons of companies, and a lot of them go completely bust or make like no money at all. But the top 1% make huge sums of money that completely outweigh all the other ones and make it very valuable and lucrative. So just that's applicable to life as well. You know, if you can lose 99% of the time, but your 1% wins are huge, then who cares? It completely outweighs all the losses. And there's a pretty similar trend in the stock market as well. The Russell 3000, which is supposedly a big stable index fund, over a 40-year period, 40% of all the companies lost over 70% of their value and never recovered. Like, that sounds atrocious, but if you look at the results over that 40-year period, there were steady gains, which is great, but that's because they were driven by about 7% of the index. 7% of the index, 7% of the index drove almost all of the gains. So just small wins can, you know, completely offset huge amounts of losses. And like I said, it's true in venture, it's true in the stock market, it's true in life. So just focus on staying in the game long enough to, you know, let your wins compound. Don't let the failures get you out of the game. Keep your head up and keep going, because the wins, if they're big enough, can completely offset everything else. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is probably the like foundation of personal finance, and that's save money. I'm sure we all know, or at least I know a few people who make decent money, but they still end up living pretty much paycheck to paycheck, and they're saving absolutely nothing. And it doesn't make sense to me, but like I said, no one's crazy. We can't judge them. They all have their own relationships with money, but you should be saving money. And you know, you're going to want to make a big purchase someday, whether it's a house, a car, if you want to have a baby, whatever it is, you should be saving for that. And even if you're not, you still need to save money. And this is something that the author points out. Life throws a lot of curveballs. You don't see them coming, but sometimes things just happen in life, and you need to be prepared for them. And in many cases, one of the best ways you can do that is to have some cash in the bank just to prepare. You know, hopefully nothing bad ever happens, but bad things do happen. You know, layoffs, illnesses, things like that. And if you don't have money saved up, that could be really detrimental to your life and those around you. But if you have a little bit of extra cash in the bank, they hopefully can be alleviated to some degree. So even if you're not saving for anything in particular, just save, because things happen in life and you're gonna want and need some extra cash in the bank. All right, those were my top favorite pieces of advice from this book. And just to recap, they were: nobody is crazy, everyone has a different relationship with money. Number 2 is that luck and bad luck exist and are part of people's successes and failures. Number 3 was social comparison never ends, so just try to opt out of it. Number 4 was you can win 1% of the time and still come out on top. And then number 5 is just save money for the sake of it. You'll need it someday, I promise you. So yeah, those are my favorite pieces of advice from this book, but there's a lot of really good stuff in here, like additionally, so I would definitely recommend checking it out. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe if you want more, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks.